Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Iyora, there lived a man named Olabisi. He was the poorest man in the village, but everyone knew him for his kindness and deep love for his wife, Tina. Though life had always been a struggle for them, they found happiness in each other. But when Tina became pregnant, their difficulties grew. Every day, Olabisi worked tirelessly, doing odd job for a little grain or helping in exchange for scraps. But as the week went by, the work became scarce, and so there were almost no food left in their small clay huts. One day, Olabisi sat with Tina. Looking at her swelling belly, he could see the hunger in her eyes, and it broke his heart. She had been so strong, but now her strength was fading. "We have nothing left, Olabisi," she said softly, her voice weak. "What will we do when the baby comes?" Olabisi heart ached. He knew they couldn't survive much longer without food. So he made a decision. "I will climb the coconut tree at the edge of the village," he said, standing up with a determined look. "There are coconuts there. I'll bring some back, enough to keep us going until we find more work." Tina's eyes filled with worry. "Olabisi, please," she begged. "It's too dangerous. What if something happened to you?" But Olabisi smiled, brushing a hand across her face. "I'll be fine, my love. I'll be back soon, and we will eat together tonight." With those words, Olabisi set off towards the tree. It was tall. It branched heavy with coconuts, swaying gently in the wind. Olabisi began to climb, his hand gripping the rough bark, his feet pressing against the tree's sturdy trunk. He was tired and hungry, but he pushed through, thinking only of Tina and their unborn child. As he reached the top, his finger brushed against the nearest coconut. He smiled to himself, already imagining the relief on Tina's face when he returned. But just as he reached the fruit, his foot slipped. For a brief moment, everything slowed. He grabbed at the hair, trying to hold on to something, anything, but there was nothing to catch him. He plummeted on the ground with a sinking tongue, the sound echoing through the empty trees. Olabisi lay there, his body broken and still. No one saw him fall. No one heard his last breath. The sun set and the night fell, but Olabisi didn't move. When the news of his death reached Tina, she collapsed in grief. The man she had loved, the father of her unborn child, was gone. She wept for days, but the villager, though they pitied her, did nothing to help. Just then, just a few days after the burial, Olabisi's brother came to her with a cruel news. "You cannot stay here, Tina," he said coldly. "This house, this land, it belongs to me now. You must leave." Tina, still weak from the grief and hunger, pleaded with him, "But where will I go? I have no family here. I have nothing." "That is not my concern," he replied, his face hard. You are not welcome here anymore. And do not think about farming the land your brother left behind. It is mine now." And so Tina was forced to leave the holy home she had known. She wandered through the village, her belly heavy with her unborn child, begging for work, for food, for anything to keep her alive. But the villager, fearing bad luck or perhaps thinking she was cursed, turned away from her. Some wanted that she was a burden, others claimed they had nothing to spare. With each passing day, Tina grew weaker. Her feet were swollen from walking, her body thin from lack of food. She would sit by the village well, staring at the water she couldn't drink, too weak to even lift the bucket. Sometimes she whispered her husband's name, hoping that somehow he would hear her and come back to her. Week passed, and one cold night, as the moon hung high in the sky, Tina felt the sharp pain of labor. She was alone in a small abandoned hut at the edge of the village. Her body trembled, and she cried out, but her voice was barely more than a whisper. No one heard her. The village was asleep, and those who might have helped her had long turned their back on her. The pain grew stronger, and she tried to push, but her strength was gone. Tears streamed down her face as she prayed for someone, anyone, to hear her, but no one came. Hours passed, and just as she began to lose hope, a hunter returning from the forest heard a faint cry. He followed the sound and found Tina laying on the ground, her body drenched in sweat, her breath swallowed and weak. Her eyes fluttered open and she saw him, but she could barely speak. "Help, please," she gasped. The hunter knelt beside her, his heart racing. "Hold on," he said, rushing outside to call for help. But by the time he returned with others, it was too late. Tina had taken her last breath, her unborn child still inside her. The villagers stood in silence, their faces pained with guilt and sorrows. They had ignored her cry, turned away from her in her time of need. Now both she and her unborn child were gone, just like Olabisi. And so the village of Iyora learned a painful lesson, one that came too late. They realized that kindness is what holds a community together, and that by turning their back on the most vulnerable among them, they had lost more than they could ever replace.